Today's speaker is Dr. Deborah Healey. She's the president of TESOL and she teaches at the University of Oregon. She's gamified all over online and face-to-face courses. And mind you, gamifying courses is really different than playing games. It's such an interesting topic. Hello, hi. And she will be talking about how to do that and giving practical tips on how to actually gamify your classes and your courses. So just a little reminder before we actually call her in, you will all get the certificate automatically sent to your email address within 2 working days. Please do check your spam folder because sometimes they do end up in the spam folder. So please do check that and no need to do anything else. So if you can hear me, Deborah, please, if you could turn your mic and camera on. Here she is. So she's connecting from Oregon. So we really, really appreciate that. You see, she's not in London either. Like all of you, we're all over the world. That's the great thing of technology. So I see she's turning off on her camera and mic.
Coming. It's coming. Yes, I think my mic is on now, I hope. Can you hear me?
Hi, Deborah.
Hey.
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, excellent.
Hand over. Bye.
Okay, sounds good. Hello, everybody. I am very happy to be here today and start talking about one of my favorite subjects, which is gamification. And in a way, this nice little quote from A Spoonful of Sugar, Mary Poppins, which was one of a very popular movie when it first came out and popular again now. We see part of the reason why we might want to gamify, because this idea that in every job there must be done, there's an element of fun. You just find the fun and the job's a game. I'm not talking about how to use games in your teaching. I'll be talking about how to turn your classroom into a game-like environment, into a learning world that is gamified. So let me move on and talk a little bit about how we do this. So I'm going to start by talking about what a game is, then why you might want to gamify, some game mechanics, the things that turn an activity into a game, how I gamified my class and what you could do to gamify yours, a few digital tools, and then we'll see if you're up for trying this. So anyway, let me start now with this idea of what is a game. Well, to be a game, it's a system. It has rules, challenge, feedback, some kind of interaction. It's got to be fun. And often there's an emotional response. You'll see here chess and bingo. Now, chess is a game that's called serious fun. It's not fun like, oh boy, let's just go play. It's quite serious, but it's still a game. It's still got challenge, feedback, interaction, and it's still fun for people who play it. It's a little different from bingo, which, while serious for many people, most of us who are not really bingo players would think of as a little lighter game than, say, chess. But they're both games because they have these elements: rules, challenge, feedback, interaction, fun, and some emotional response, a lot of the time. So then the question comes, what if there are no rules? Well, if there are no rules, it's not a game anymore, it's play. You got to have rules for it to be a game. And again, they can be different kinds of rules, but there have to be rules. So when we look at what gamification is, it's adding elements of games, elements of gaming to regular activities that we don't normally think of as games. So it's not playing games. It's turning what you're doing into a game environment with game mechanics. So I'm going to talk some more about game mechanics in a minute, but we've seen this in business for quite a while. The term gamification was first coined around 2002 by Nick Pelling. It started to become more popular, though, around 2011, and we started to see more of it in Google searches than before. But in business, if any of you have sort of a card that gives you points, or a card that maybe, depending on your number of points, you get a different color card, airline cards, shopping cards, or just points. This is how businesses have started gamifying. They've added points for things they want you to do. They want to motivate you to go buy stuff at their store. So you get rewards, you get points. Training has now moved very seriously into gamification. So instead of just you sit there in your workshop and they stand and deliver, now it's much more of a game environment in training, in workplace training in particular. And of course, in education, we're now starting to talk about using games, not games, but using gamification to turn the classroom into a game environment, not where you play games, but where the environment is itself. Gives a sense of the game to learners. So it's a little different from playing games, which I'm sure all of us do in class. This is different. So when we ask why do we want to gamify a class, well, if you've got students under the age of, let's say, 40, they probably use game as a verb. They game. Gaming is part of people's lives these days. And the reason that we want to add it to education, why we want to gamify our classrooms, is that it really can help students achieve learning outcomes if it's done well. If it's done well, learners can move from extrinsic motivation, external rewards, to intrinsic motivation, learning for the sake of learning. The other reason is that you're always moving up, and I'll talk about that more in my next slide, but you start at 0 in a game and you move up, and the same in a gamified environment. It's also a great technique for motivating learners in large classes. Especially where they're working in groups, you've got activities, you can gamify a large class and encourage more motivation. Fundamentally, you gamify because it motivates learners. And let me talk a little bit about my own sort of philosophy of education. We've all got students who are at a range of skill levels, a range of motivation levels, right? You've got your high achievers. They come in there, they are super duper ready to go. They do well on everything you put in front of them. I mean, my job with my super achievers is to keep them, going, give them more stuff to do, provide additional resources for them so they can just keep on going. But they don't really need me. They could learn just as well, almost just as well on their own, because they are so motivated, such super achievers, such good learners. And then I teach adults. So I have learners who might not come to class, especially the university students will have chosen not to come to class. And for them, I try to get them to come to class. I email, I text, SMS, but they're adults. If they don't show up, I don't worry about them. So I don't worry about my top people because they'll do fine. I don't worry about the people who are never there because there's nothing I can do about it. But most of my students are in between. They're people who want to know, want to learn, want to do something, but maybe they don't quite have the motivation level. Maybe they aren't quite as engaged as they need to be. They need to have a reason to come to class and really fully participate, to be fully engaged. And gamification, in some ways, can help those learners. And that's the group I really care about, motivating, getting engaged, and having them learn, because they want to learn, but they're just not very good at it. So let me talk a little bit about moving up. This is from the little book of gamification that I wrote that you can get on Macmillan Education's website. So this is, for me, why I got interested in gamification. Because when you have grades, I mean, grades always start at 100%. And students will walk into class, first day of class, most of them will be thinking, yeah, I'm going to do a great job. I'm going to get an A. I'm wonderful. And with every assignment, every quiz, every test, they see that 100% go down, 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 down. You don't have 100% after the first assignment unless you're one of those super achievers. You're losing motivation. But with a game world, everybody starts at 0. Everything you do adds points. It lets people go up. Every assignment, every quiz, every activity adds points so that learners see themselves making progress. They see themselves moving up. I mean, even if it's not at a fabulous rate, at least they can feel like they're making progress. And so as the teacher, you're choosing how many points to give, what to give points for, what to give rewards for of any kind. It's your choice as a teacher to figure out what to reward and how much to reward it. And I think that makes it way more intriguing to the people who need that little more oomph to be motivated to come to class and to do the work and to work harder to do the work, to do it over again if they need to rewrite. So Kapp, Carl Kapp's Gamification of Learning and Instruction in 2012 gave a really nice roadmap for gamifying in education. He talks about 3 main elements. Game mechanics. Now, game mechanics are the elements of games that make them game-like. So game mechanics often are thought of as points, badges, levels, teamwork, collaboration. You know, there are a variety of things that people do as part of game mechanics that you can do in the classroom as well. Aesthetics is another piece of gamification, of games and gamification, because the aesthetics are the feel. If you're doing Farmville or World of Warcraft, both games, very different aesthetics in them, you move into a game world, a farm world or a World of Warcraft world. But still, you have the sense of you're in a different space when you're when you're in those games. So what we want to create in a gamified classroom is this sense of a learning space that is a gamified space for learning. And then very importantly is this idea of game thinking by teachers and learners, where when you're thinking in a game way, you've got competition, sure, but you have cooperation, you have teamwork, you have exploration, you have storytelling, narrative, you have all of these elements that affect how you think about what you're doing. Not just what you do, but how you think about it. And so that's why when we look at students, and normally, we have this view of mental image of students. And most of the time it's like this. They're sitting, they're doing the work, they're waiting for class to end. They're there sitting. In a gamified environment, you don't want to have students sitting there quietly. You want to have players. And to think of students not as students, but as players changes their perception of themselves and our perception of them as teachers, because they are now active, engaged, participating, really involved in the class, not sitting and waiting. And even if your class, you don't see your class being that way, it's often the perception that we have, the mental image that we have of students. So it's a very different image of students and players. When they are players, it's just a really different thing. They're way more active. And so when we gamify, we're trying to add game mechanics, these elements of games, to your classroom. And remember, these are elements of games. These aren't games that we're talking about. We're turning your classroom into a learning world, a learning environment, learning world, in the same way that World of Warcraft is a game world, where we're turning the classroom into a world that uses elements of games, so game mechanics. So the question is, how can you gamify your classroom? How can you create this game world in your classroom? How do you make classroom activities more game-like? I mean, again, this is not, I mean, you can use games in your classroom, sure, but that's not gamifying. It's making classroom activities, the classroom environment, more like a game. And sometimes it's easier than you think, because sometimes it's just how you call things that starts to change the attitude from class to, ooh, new learning world. So here we have, we're teachers, right? We got multiple choice, a matching exercise for you. I can't help it. I've got to give you a little, exercise to do as part of my presentation here. So on the left, you see vocabulary related to gaming and game mechanics. These are all elements of games or vocabulary about elements of games. On the right side, you see classroom vocabulary. Okay? We all know group work, we in grades, large projects. These are all classroom vocabulary. Your task is to figure out which ones match. Which of the ones on the left can be really similar to what we already do in class on the right. So, as one easy one that you've probably already seen is if you look at number 2, it becomes group work, right? So think about this for a moment, and then we're going to go through and talk about how these map on each other. Oh, some excellent guesses here. People are, trying to figure out how this works. Some very good ones. Okay. Let's see what you get. I'll give you about another minute, let's say. And then we'll see where we are. Okay, let's see how many you got. Okay, let's look at the first one. Experience points, XPs for short. These aren't exactly the same as grades. Remember, grades go down. You start at your A+ and you descend with every quiz and test and activity that you don't do perfectly. With experience points, with a game, everybody starts at 0. Everybody starts at 0. And everybody moves up because everything that you do adds points. So it's not quite the same, but it's very similar. And you can convert experience points at the end of class back into grades if you have to give people grades. So we have XPs, experience points, as grades. And let me also say that you can do experience points on whatever you choose to do them on. So it doesn't have to be activities, it doesn't have to be competitive. It can also be collaborative behavior. I'll talk more about that in a minute. Party and team, many of you got this. Group work, yay. You go out with your party. And, it's a little different from, sit in your group, right? Let's sit in your party and do this, or in your team. A quest, large project. Now, a lot of us do projects in class, right? We have large projects, smaller activities. The smaller activity might be a task using game vocabulary. A large project is a quest. And, when you say project work, your good students really like project work because project work is fun. But a quest, now, that's really cool. And especially if you're thinking about your teens who are almost certainly very active gamers, to turn things into more game language and having them be active players makes it way more motivating. So a large project becomes a quest. The level, you can choose a variety of things as level. Often successfully completing a unit can be moving up to the next level. You can choose successfully completing a learning objective to move up to the next level. So you're the teacher, you're the game designer in your classroom, you are gamifying, you're the one who chooses what counts as a level and how people move up. Because remember, always moving up. Rewards, easy. Excuse me. Those of you who are teachers of young learners are very, very familiar with rewards. But with adults, I was amazed at how well badges worked. You know, I was thinking, well, will my adult learners think this is a little too children oriented? But I had some people who didn't care about badges, but I had other people who wanted them on their Facebook page. Said, okay, whatever. But you do give rewards in a game. We give rewards in classes, but we always give rewards in games, whether they are points or stars, but mostly the rewards in games are badges. Then player versus player, we have, of course, competition. You'll have some of this, as we do in any class, but we don't have to make the whole class about competition. This is not that kind of game space. This is a collaborative game space as well as one with competition, because it's classroom. We don't want people out to beat each other. We want people working together as well as doing things that are competitive. And then we have game constraints. The things that you are and are not allowed to do, well, class rules. There are things you are and are not allowed to do in a classroom. So this is one way to start thinking about gamifying, to start saying, okay, how do I change so that we're counting up? We're using points from starting at 0. How do we talk about things? Let's have quests and tasks instead of assignments and projects. I mean, you could have assignments and projects, but doesn't a quest sound so much more fun? Even if it's exactly the same thing. That's the beauty of it. It's exactly the same thing, but with a different name, which gives it a different feel. So let me talk a bit about progress too. In any game, you have progress. And as I said before, remember you're always going up. In this chart, the red or pink bars are showing weekly scores on a word list. So 10, 15, 8, 9, 19, you know, the red goes up and down in little increments. It's like each week doesn't give you the sense that you'll do better next week. You just sort of go up and down and up and down and up and down in little bits. But if you look at the blue line, total number of words, whoa, how much more motivating is that? The first week you learned 10 words. By the second week, you had 22 words. The third week, you have nearly 40 words. This sense of progress. So often in language teaching, it's really hard for learners to get a good sense of making progress. And this is one thing, you know, this is an easy one with vocabulary. You could do it with just about anything because you're going up in points, whatever you do. You're showing people that they're getting better. And it's very motivating. It's a sense of achievement. It's something that's giving our learners the clear sense that they're doing better. Like in a game. You always go up in a game. And like in a game, you have to have a way of recovering. I mean, how many lives do you get in a game? Well, you know, you don't get multiple lives in a classroom. But for weaker learners, it's really good to offer them a way to regain, to come back up to where they want to be. And if you can get more points for as you're going through, you might be more willing to do something over again. You might be more willing to do an extra credit assignment to give yourself more points. So it's something to think about, that you always want to bring your whole class up. I mean, as we all know, with differentiated instruction, with anything else we're doing, we're trying to bring everybody up. And so this is no different. You're providing opportunities for your weaker learners to gain points. Let me merely say that in my gamified classes, my super achievers always wanted to do extra credit. I basically said, I'm not reading your essay again so you can get an extra point. But the people who were weaker, who didn't do so well the first time, I wanted them to try again. I was willing to read again, or to give them a little more to do to gain points, because they needed it. And if I can do it with points and make them willing to do it again, we know that people learn by doing things over again. So it works. Now, let me also talk about project-based learning. I'm sure that a number of you have used project-based learning, but it's a great tool in large classes because people are working in groups. And it really doesn't matter how big the class is. And in a way, a really large class can work even better because you have larger groups that you're doing project-based learning in. But gamification lets you set up groups, teams. You can do differentiated instruction or not. With large projects, you get this game mechanic called epic meaning. And you may have heard, the phrase, oh, that was really epic. It means it's something that was big, it was important, it was valuable, it was useful. In a video game, obviously you are saving the world, you are defeating the zombies or whatever. It's epic meaning, it's something big. And with a project and project-based learning, especially something that goes outside the classroom, that is really useful to learners, you're getting epic meaning. I mean, for example, something like, let's clean up our school. The grounds are really dirty because people just throw things away. Let's set up a project to encourage students to keep it clean. Or to map our neighborhood, there's a whole range of things you can do in project-based learning that are quests in a gamified environment that give epic meaning because they are big, they go outside the classroom. And then, of course, with project-based learning, you award points to groups, to individuals, in the same way that you might you award grades for different pieces of things in project-based learning that's not gamified. So it's a great tool within a project-based learning environment as well. So let me talk a little bit about how I did this, and it's a fairly straightforward process. You can do the same things, where the first step, of course, like everything in teaching, is to start with our learning objectives or learning outcomes. We start with where we want students to be, what we want them to be able to do at the end of the class. So we start with that. Then we think about what are our tasks, assignments, what are our quests, major projects. So we figure out how we're going to do that. We're going to figure out when as well. We'll assign points to each of these. And remember, you're the teacher. You're in control. You can choose the things that you assign points for. So in my class, I wanted my pre-service teachers, my teachers in training, to be more collaborative and not just competitive. So in addition to experience points, they got collaboration points when they helped each other, when they worked as a team, when they responded to someone else's post in the discussion board. You choose. You give points for the things that are valuable to you, that help you meet learning objectives. So you give points, you add them up, you see where the levels will be. And levels, like I said before, could be based on units. It's really good to base them on learning objectives, you've achieved this learning objective, you now level up to the next learning objective. So it's really a fairly straightforward thing. It does take a certain amount of math because you have to assign points and add them up, but I think we can do it. I mean, we have calculators. We can do this. So it's not that hard, but you have to think ahead about what you're going to do with your class. You can't just sort of go and add points as you go along. You really have to plan it out in advance. And this is why in my online courses, because online courses are fully planned out in advance, gamifying was a bit easier because I knew exactly what I was going to do, when I was going to do it, and what would be required of the learners. But I've also done it in a face-to-face class, just by thinking about what you're going to do throughout the whole term, and then breaking it up, giving points, and figuring things out that way. So badges are another fun thing to give learners. People, like I said before, people like badges. And so the assistant badge that you see here was one that I gave for a certain level of collaboration points. The expert badge was for a certain level of experience points. And you see the badge that we gave as part of the Trace Effects course, my online course, where it lists, all of the things that people did in order to receive this badge. On my website, which you'll see at the end of the presentation, you have links to online badge creators that make it easier. You can give people digital badges, you can print them out. Sort of you decide what your learners, what your players will prefer, and you go that way. So there are a few more game mechanics that you can add. Free lunch is a very fun one. Free lunch is not something that students prepare for. It's where you notice that everybody has now achieved a certain level. Maybe everybody's now at this point level. It's like, okay, we've all done this. Everybody came to class on time today, whatever it was. 10 points for everybody. Free lunch. So it's fun because it's unexpected, it's free, it's a neat thing to do, and your students can't sort of say, oh, we're going to get one if you all come on time. It's unexpected, and that's at the heart of free lunch. Part of the fun of it is that it's unexpected. Epic Challenge is what I've talked about before. Project-based learning is great for Epic Challenge. You want something that makes students feel like they are doing something bigger than just a workbook assignment. This is where projects are really good for giving a sense of something larger, something that goes outside the classroom. And of course, you're in a game, you have an inventory. In a video game, you get inventory. In the classroom, we have portfolios. So you add your item, the assignment that you've done, to your inventory. I mean, it's a portfolio. And also, you can give skills to people to add to their inventory. Somebody did really well on a specific area. You can give a special little inventory skill to that individual and have them add it to their inventory. It's a little different from a badge, but badges can also go into inventory. So then another aspect of many gamified areas is this idea of narrative or storytelling. And you can have a theme that goes through your whole class. The theme could be like, oh, murder mystery, and every classroom assignment you get a new clue, or a race, or a scavenger hunt, or a treasure hunt. You can do this. And so you'll see a link to Neela Bell's website on my website in the resource list. But that's one way to organize a class as well, to have a whole long theme that goes throughout the class. I have to admit, when I did my classes, I couldn't see a way to add the theme to the whole amount of work that I was doing already. I wanted to see if it would work first. And so, but it's an interesting idea to have a theme that goes through the whole class. And then, of course, your narrative in project-based learning, the project, epic challenge, that's a story. I mean, the project that you're doing is a story. So it's, again, part of that game thinking, game mindset that's in your classroom that's not a game. Now, I want to talk about a few digital tools that you can also use. You do not need technology to use to gamify your class. You don't need to. But there are a few digital tools that could be helpful to you. You know, some of these are free, some of them you may have. So let me talk a little bit about a few of the digital tools that can be useful to you. In addition, of course, to the digital badges that you can find links to on my website. So, for example, Class Dojo. Class Dojo has been around for several years now. It's free at the basic level. You can pay more for more features that it gives you, but it's a cool sort of thing. I mean, for one thing, all of these students are depicted as little critters like this rather than as themselves. So it's already got sort of that game-ish feeling to it because they have avatars. They are something other than themselves. But what Class Dojo lets the teacher do is if you have a digital device like a cell phone in the classroom, you have a list of your students within Class Dojo, and you can assign them individual additional points for various things. So you can go through and say, oh, you know, look at what's going on here. So it can be a team, it can be an individual, where you're giving points on the fly. Of course, you can also use Class Dojo to give points sitting at your desk. You don't have to do it off your mobile phone in the room, but you can. And for example, this is not a real student name, student where as a teacher, I chose the things that I wanted to reward. So helping others, definitely I wanted to reward. Being on task, participating, staying with it, persistence, shared creativity, working hard. I mean, you choose. You are in control of your learning environment. You are in control of your gamified environment. You choose the things that you will reward. And so these are sample things. And so what I can do is during class, I can go through and say, okay, Fatma is doing, oh, this is really good. Let me give her a point here. You know, Juan is doing that. Let me give him a point here. And you can also do it at the end of class where you're adding points from your desktop. Now, the beauty of this is that your students, if they do have access to a computer, a digital device, or their parents have access, they can see the points they've been awarded. So it's a nice little tool, little free tool that you can use. Navio, that I'll talk about in a minute, also has an element where you can add points on the fly to individuals or groups. So Navio is an adventure world. It's from Macmillan. So if you have some of the Macmillan course books, especially young learner course books, you'll see that there is a Navio app that lets learners go through and do additional practice in this little island, exploring this island, this game world. And so what you do is you start at the beginning and you unlock different areas as you go through the game world. So they maneuver their little guy around, or a little, you know, little creature, a little person around. You land on a spot. When you land on it, it brings up this, what you see on the right. So what you see on the left is the overall view, the map, and what you see on the right is an individual area within it where they can do additional vocabulary practice or other practice and get points that will allow them to unlock the next area. So it's that kind of thing where they're working through activities to achieve points to unlock next activities. So it's a fun little tool. I don't know if any of you have Moodle. I assume that many people do have Moodle. This is a free platform that many schools have adopted. Moodle includes a number of areas that are gamification. So you can add these little elements to Moodle to make life easier if you want to gamify. Level Up is a great tool. It lets you set levels of points or activities that will automatically trigger the new level. So that as a teacher, you don't have to track all of this. The platform will say, whoa, you've leveled up. As a teacher, you set what qualifies as achieving that level. And the computer can't figure that out for you. You have to tell Moodle what you want, what will count to level up. Quizventure is sort of a fun thing. It's a game that's within Moodle. So if you want to play a shoot 'em up kind of game, that's there in Moodle. You get points for it, and the points are what make it potentially part of a gamified environment. But Quizventure is a game. The interactive content is another area within Moodle where you can assign points for work on the interactive content, where it can be tied to things where people are achieving a level because you've got a variety of interactive content that you can add from the outside. The game element lets you create a game. There are a variety of games that you can create within Moodle. And again, using a game does not gamify. Using a game is just another piece of your gamified environment, but that's not what makes it a gamified environment. The points from the game that they can use to level up make it gamified. Now, MoTrain or Motivated gives virtual coins, a way of getting all these gold coins, which you can then store in Stash. Stash is an inventory, a portfolio. So you can store your coins in Stash and watch the number of coins going up as you do different tasks. And it's a nice thing to do. It's if you have Moodle, look into using some of these components within Moodle to add game elements to your classroom. Now, let me talk a little bit about Classcraft. Classcraft is a really cool tool. Again, the basic level is free. If you want add-ons, you pay for add-ons. With Classcraft, you as the teacher can create an adventure world for your students. So you set the activities, what they need to do to move from one place to the next, a lot like Navio, but where you're creating it yourself. This does take a fair bit of work. And the thing with Classcraft is that for your learners to participate in Classcraft, they have to have access to digital devices, either at home on a computer or in the classroom, maybe a class set of tablets or whatever. So this is a very tech-heavy option. It is it's free at the base level. It's free at the level that most teachers would want to use it. So it is a free item. And again, you don't have to use technology to gamify. These are just a few of the tech tools that you can use if you want to add them to your gamified environment. So this is a little video that I don't think we have time to show, but you can find this video on my website that you'll see in a minute. And I'd really encourage you to take a look at it, because you've been listening to me for over 40 minutes now. And I'm sure that there's a lot that you've heard that you'd like to review, you'd like to think more about. Well, this is a great video for talking about gamification in education, how you can use it, what you can do, how you can set things up. And so I would encourage you to look at this video as a way of reviewing or recapping or sharing with others what I've been talking about now. Because remember, gamification is not the same as using games. Gamification is where you are creating an environment. And that's why teachers really are at the heart of gamification. It's where you're creating a world for your students, this learning world where they're active players, they're active creators. Our role as teachers is to establish this learning environment, something that's motivating, encouraging creativity, and linguistically rich. So, what we want to do is to build not only extrinsic motivation with rewards, but go from the extrinsic motivation of rewards to a real love of learning, which is intrinsic motivation. And one of the things with doing a gamified classroom is that when learning is motivating, then it becomes intrinsic. When learning is exciting, when people come to class wanting to learn, they have intrinsic motivation. And that's where we want them to be, because learners who want to learn are the ones who are ready for what we have for them. They're ready to make best use of the learning environment we've created, and they can move forward and continue with their learning, not only when they're sitting in class for their hour a day, maybe 3 hours a week, but in an ongoing way, so that they will go out and maybe listen to some music or watch TV or do a little extra assignment, because they've now gotten to the point where they've gone from I get this reward to learning is rewarding. And that's what we want as teachers. So finally, let me do this little quick poll before we move to the Q&A session, and where I know that Mike is going to want to say a few things about your certificates, etc. So let's start with this. So what do you guys think about gamifying? Are you ready to try it? Or maybe a few things, or yeah, you need to think about it. You're going to look at some of those videos on my website, or thanks for sharing, but not for me. So what do you think? Yeah, I see a whole lot of people in the chat that they're either ready to go or ready to try a few things. And remember, you don't have to gamify 100% of what you do in the classroom to make it work. You can say, okay, now we're into our game world, where you gamify a portion of the activities that you're doing. And remember, some of it is just changing how we think about things and talk about things. You're not just doing an assignment, you're doing a task to achieve a quest. You're moving forward. And so importantly, this idea of counting up, that everybody starts at 0 and everybody can move up from 0, where you're allowing your weaker students to have additional ways of gaining points, to stay with the class, to feel committed to learning. I mean, that's really what we want. Okay, and so let me move on, and thank you. And now I know Mike Riley has a few things to say, and then we'll have a few minutes afterwards for Q&A. But this is my email if you want to email me, and that is the website where you can find all sorts of resources, including, I think I'll put a PowerPoint of my talk, or rather a PDF of my talk there as well, so you can see that on my website. So, Mike, I think it's over to you now. Is Mike here? Or Federica? We're moving over. I can certainly take some questions now if we want to do a few questions before we start. Any questions? Oh, how to do points and badges with a huge class. This is a really good question. I think that in any really large class, because I used to think of a large class as 35 to 40. Then I was doing some workshops in Gabon with some African teachers who told me that they would kill for a class of only 40. They have 80 to 100. And the way that you work with large classes is you have to work in groups. You have to do a lot of group work. And for group work to be effective, you have to think about what are the different roles that people can have so that you can assess what they're doing in their different roles. I mean, gamification isn't adding new things. It isn't adding new work to what you do. However you assess now, you can still assess because you're giving grades. You're giving points now. Well, instead of starting at the A plus and moving down, you're just starting at 0 and moving up. You're still giving points. And so whatever you're doing, it's still going to be points based. On the question about advanced learners at the university, well, this was my question when I first started doing this. My first attempt with this was at the university with pre-service teachers. And I'm thinking, are they going to buy into this, or are they just going to look at me like I am totally crazy? Well, they liked it. And then I've used it also with more advanced learners in online classes. I've been amazed at how well this actually works. So how well this actually works. You can make it work with all sorts of people. Part of the key, though, is having it be meaningful. If people are just doing little things for points that aren't building skills, that they think of as just doing things for points, it's not going to be more motivating than just doing things for a grade. You've got to be seeing, this is where showing learners progress becomes so important. When they can see their progress as a result of what they're doing, then there's value in it. Then it's more than just, oh, I got some points, so what? I got a badge, so what? Well, you've achieved these learning objectives to get your badge. That's what. And that's what makes it powerful.
Hi, Deborah. Hi.
Okay.
Can you hear me and see me now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, we had some technology issues, of course, but thank you for bearing with us and thank you for starting taking all the questions. But most of all, thank you for an amazing session. It was really, really interesting. And I think we definitely have time for a couple more questions if you want.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure.
So I don't know if you've picked any in the meantime.
Well, I can see the question of, is the webinar recorded? I can answer that one. Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
yes, it is recorded, and the recording will be available on YouTube in a couple of days. And before we actually move to the other questions, I just want to remind people that are asking this question that you will all get the certificate to your email address within 2 working days. You don't need to do anything. It will be automatically sent out to you. And please do check your spam folder, though. Please check your spam folder, because sometimes it does end up in the spam folder. And as for the other questions, I actually saw one that was asking what to do if while you're trying to gamify your courses, your students start to speak in their native language again. So what do you do in that case? How do you engage them again in English?
Okay, this is a question that comes up frequently. What do you do when learners are using the L1, their first language in a classroom? It's the same question of what do you do when learners are using their first language in any classroom. A lot of the research now is talking about the benefits of what's called translanguaging, where you're building on students' first language to increase their ability in the second language. The research is now saying it looks like it's not such a good thing to tell students you cannot possibly speak your language, your first language in the classroom. You cannot possibly do things, in a small group with each other in your first language. You have to only use the target language. Well, the research now is saying that that's maybe not the right way to go. The key is to have tasks that can only be done in the target language. How they get to those tasks is where the first language can be used. And so, for example, you have a team that's working to figure out how to do a specific project. Well, if they're talking about the logistics of who's got the camera, who's going to go here, who's going to go there, that doesn't have to be in the target language. It can be in their own language, because your goal is to have them produce something of high quality in the target language. And so part of it is picking your battles, and part of it is figuring out how much of this is logistic use of the first language and how much of it is, lazy use of the first language. And that's the challenge. For me, I will have phases of instruction where I don't care if they're explaining to each other in the first language. And in fact, I'd rather have them explain something in the first language to each other than wait for me to try to mime it out or act it out or repeat the instructions for the 6th time that they didn't understand the previous 5 times, but that they might understand if one of their classmates just tells them what it is in their first language. So it's that logistic use of the first language that I don't care so much about, because I'm looking at what is the goal then of, to produce language. Where are we going with it? How do we achieve the learning objective? And if there's some first language along the way, it's not a problem. And I would encourage you to look at the research on what's called translanguaging, because I think that this is something that is a growing field of research, a fascinating field of research, and talking about how do teachers use students' first languages to build the target language. I mean, for me, because I typically taught students from a wide range of languages, and I do not speak, 12 different languages of the students in my classroom, I had to count on students explaining to each other when somebody figured it out how to do the thing that I was asking them to do. So I think it's something that you don't need to worry so much about. I think it's a matter of crafting your task so that what they're doing as the task is where they're getting the target language, not in building to the point of achieving the task. And of course, if you got young learners and they're yelling hooray in their first language, you're going, okay, now let's all say it in English, so that you can make it into sort of a game too.
Thank you. That was really, really interesting. I'm actually really interested in this trans language now. That's great. Thank you.
Future webinar from Macmillan. Yeah. So think about bringing in trans
actually, I'm
language.
going to have Mike as soon as I see him. So yeah. Thank you so much. So first of all, I would like to thank you, Deborah, because it was an amazing session. It was super, super interesting. And I've seen by the engagement that we got that everyone absolutely loved this session and this topic. Secondly, I really want to thank Mike, who's the person behind the entire webinar program. We wouldn't have the webinars without Mike, so thank you, Mike. And last but definitely not least, thank you to all the teachers that made the time to attend all of our sessions. This is our last session for 2019. The next one will be on the 15th of January. We're taking a little break, but we really look forward to seeing all of you and your colleagues that you might want to invite to our next webinar, which is going to be on 15th of January. Our speaker is going to be Sarah Hilliard. She's an ELT consultant and teacher trainer, and she will be speaking about the positive classroom, how to achieve that, what it is, and how it is beneficial to teaching English and learning. Again, you will all get the certificate to your email address automatically. No need to do anything. Just please check your spam folder because they sometimes end up in there. And if you want to learn more, as I've seen you do actually, about, first of all, our Navio platform that Deborah mentioned, please go to macmillannavio.com, where you will also find Deborah's white paper about gamification. And along with your certificate, you will also get a link to download this amazing little book of gamification that was done by Deborah. So thank you so much. And if you want to learn more, even more about gamification, do visit our blog at macmillanenglish.com/blog. It's the second link that you can see on screen, and you will find a lot of information. And if you want to subscribe to more of our webinars, please do go to macmillanenglish.com/webinars. And if you click on the archive session, you will see all of our past webinars and this webinar by Deborah as well. So thank you so much all for attending. And to those of you who are going on holiday in the next weeks, have a great holiday season. And thank you again. it's really a pleasure to see so many of you from all over the world that make the time to be with us and improve your career, your professional development. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Deborah. It was really amazing. Thank you.
And thanks all of you, all of the teachers who are trying to do whatever you can to improve what your students' learning outcomes and their life outcomes. So you're really the heart of what we all are doing, is enabling our learners to achieve their goals. So thank you for being here. And if you are going on holidays, as Frederica has said, have a wonderful holiday.